Today we are going to discuss about the second chapter of political science of 10th standard, that is our federalism. The term federalism is denote the sharing of power between central government and the local governments. Earlier, most of the government in the world were following a unitary system of governing, but in India, 1993 onwards, the union government or the central government decided to give the powers to the state government. So they are sharing the powers between central government and state government at present. Okay. So state government has their own different set of power sharing, and even depend upon the power sharing country to country also it varies. So the federalism is a system of government where the power is shared between the central government and the states. That means the division of subdivision of the government. Okay, we know the example of Belgium as well as Sri Lanka. Belgium divided its power with all the state government or the local bodies, so they could solve the problem of the differences, conflict in their country. Whereas when you take the example of Sri Lanka, they are not ready to share their power with the local self-government. So still there is a problem in Sri Lanka. Even though only 25 countries out of 193 countries in the world follow the federalism, but the population wise, if you take the entire population of around 40% of the population of the world follow the federal system. So we can, by this statement, we can see that, or we can know that most of the people in the world like or follow federal system. So that is the importance of federation in our country, or federal system in the world. So when you discuss about the unitary form of government, we know that in the unitary form of government, as the word mentioned, it's a unitary one, a single one ruler. Directly the government rule from the central government. They never share their power with the state governments. Now we are going to see the key features of federalism. The first key feature of federalism is there are two or more levels or tiers of the government. As we already know by listening or seeing the definition of federalism, that it is federal too. Okay, so there should be a minimum 2 levels of government. It can be more than that. Minimum 2 level of government, as like central government and state government, as an example. Okay, the second one is different government or the central government and the state government govern the same citizen. So either it is a state government or it is a central government, they govern or they rule the same citizen, as we know that, but their jurisdiction is specifically mentioned in their what their administrative and legislation process. Everything is very clearly mentioned in our constitution. The third key feature, the existence and the authority of each tier of the government is clearly mentioned in the constitution, and they guaranteed to. The rights which is given to the state government is very clearly mentioned in our constitution, that is there, so it is guaranteed to them. And in the same way, the central government too. What are the rights is given to the central government under the federal setup is everything is mentioned in our constitution, and it is guaranteed to the that particular authorities. And the fourth one is the fundamental provision of the constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by any of the government, any level of the government. Suppose if any rule which is meant for the state government or which is meant for the central government, if any of the changes, if they want to make in that such rules, they should be accepted by each level of the government. If any changes want to be done by the central government, it should be get a consent from the state government, vice versa. If the state government want to change any such type of changes, if they want to make in the rules, they should get a consent from or acceptance from the central government. When you go to the fifth one, the court has the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of the different level of the government. The Senate, especially the High Court or the Supreme Court of our country, especially the Supreme Court, has the power to judge any type of cases which is between the central government and the state government. If you go to the sixth point, the sources of revenue specifically mentioned in our constitution about very clarity is given about the sharing of income between the state government and the central government. And the last and the seventh key feature of the federalism is that it aims two objectives. The system, the dual system or the federal system, they have a dual objective. First objective is to secure or safeguard and promote the unity of our country. At the same time, the second objective is that to accommodate regional diversity. So, first one, the objective of the federal system is that safeguard and promote the unity of the country and same time accommodate all the regional diversity. These are the main 7 points under the key features of federalism. Very clearly, I'm sure that, or I'm assuring you that this question will be there for the examination or the public examination, because very important, these key features will be asked many times for the board examination. Now we are going to see the different routes through which the federation can be formed. Okay, there are two aspects of are very crucial for the institution and the practice of the federalism. What are the two aspects? That is, first one is mutual trust. Mutual trust should be there between the state government as well as the central government, and the levels and the agreement to live together. So this is a trust between the central government and the state government, that mutual understanding, mutual trust should be there. Not only the mutual trust, the agreement to live together. That are the main two aspects of the federation or the roots of federalism. Now we are going to see the two kinds of roots which the federation is being formed. Okay, that are holding together federation and coming together federation. The first route involved the independent states coming together to form a bigger unit. This kind of coming together federations are found in like a USA, Australia and Switzerland. So small unit coming together to form a bigger unit, such a type of federation is called as coming together federation. The second type of federation is holding together federation. How the holding together federation formed that? A large country decided to divide the power between the constituent states. Large country decided to share their power between the constituent states in the particular country. Example, India is very good example for that, because we know that we have many states. The entire states are controlled over India. So India, Spain and Belgium are the example for holding together federation. So two types of federations are there, coming together federation and holding together federation. So you can expect one question from this, the distinguish between or difference between coming together federation and holding together federation. Now we are going to see the next topic, what make India a federal country, or how India is a federal country. What are the features of this federal system? Apply a provincial or provisions of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution is threefold distributions of legislative system. So like central government, their power is dividing between the state government. Even they divide the power between even to the local self-government, that we learn towards the end of this lesson. First of all, we are going to see the three items which is mentioned about which is showing why we follow, or India follows a federal system. So the daily affairs of the India or the states are divided into so many subjects, like the department, like education department, health, foreign affairs, many things like that. Okay, so these affairs or subjects are controlled by different authorities. Some of the subjects are controlled by the central government directly, some of them are under state government alone, some of them are between both of them or both of them together doing it. Okay, so we can list it out in the three main divisions or subject, like union list, state list and concurrent list. Okay, first one we are going to see about the union list. So in the union list, it includes the subject like national importance, like the defense of the country, or the foreign affairs of the country, banking facilities of the country, communication and the security of this country. These are the matters directly controlled by the central government. Okay, this union government alone can make the decision regarding the subject which come under the union list. Next list is about a state list. As the sentence or the heading states that most of the subject, all the subject which come under the state list are deal with the states itself. Okay, so the subject of the states that under the local important subjects are given to the coming under the state list. Then what are the subjects which come under the state list, like police department, trade and commerce and agriculture and irrigation department. Okay, so these all list or the subject directly deal with the state government alone. The state government alone can make the law regarding this list which come under the state list. Next one, the third one is concurrent list. It includes the subject which is common for the state government as well as the central government. Both the government, the central and state government, they can deal with such subjects. Okay, so like education, the forest department, trade unions, and even marriage, adoption, and successions. These all the department which is connected to central government as well as state government. So both this department or the government can make law for these concurrent list. But when there is any problem between the state government and the central government regarding this concurrent list, that time the union government will be considered, or the union government suggestion will be taken care. Now we are going to see the next topic: how is federalism practiced in India? The real success of the federalism or practice of federalism in India is attributed its nature of democratic politics, or how the democracy practicing in India depend upon that. We can say whether the exact federalism is practicing in any of the country. Okay, we can have some the major ways in which the federalism practiced in India. We are going to see some major way how the federalism practiced in India. The first one, linguistic state. What is meant by linguistic state? We know that linguistic in the sense in connection with the languages, correct? The certain linguistic state have been formed after our independence. Major divisions of these states happen basically based on the languages which they speak. Okay, between 1947 and 1917, many old states have vanished and many new states have been emerged, and the area of the states and boundaries and name, some of the states name itself is changed. Okay, some states have been formed of the people who speak in the same languages. So one example, we know that about the Andhra Pradesh. Recent new states emerged as Telangana, correct? So they speak, both of them speak same language. Even so many changes happen. That new states also formed. It's forming even now. So these states are known as linguistic states. The next topic we are going to see about the language policy of our country. Listen, in our country, the second test of India's Indian Federation is the language policy. So you know that the Hindi was identified as the official language of our country. But beside the Hindi, another around 21 other languages are considered as the scheduled languages in our constitution. Okay, so the states to have their own official languages, and the government was taken place in the different languages of the concerned states, because even as we know that only 40% of the Indian people speaks Hindi as their mother tongue. Okay, so different states, they have different mother tongues too. So English also is using for the official communication between the states. Okay, next topic is about center-state relations. The restructuring the center-state relation is one more way in which the federation has been strengthened in practice. So if no single party, nowadays, if no single party is getting clear majority to form a particular government in state or even central governments too, they form an alliance with so many other parties, and these party, as they are forming an alliance, many party gets power to rule or participation in ruling. So one way that is better to better for the development of federalism. Okay, many party gets a participation in the ruling party, and they divide the power. So power sharing or the federal system works properly. So the next topic is about the decentralization in India. What is decentralization? Not being centralized. It's a dividing to others, between others. Okay. When the power is taken away from the central government and the state government and is given or started to given to the local governments now. Okay. It is called a decentralization. The basic idea of decentralization is that if the decentralization is practicing, more problem and issues can be solved in the basic level itself, because what is required in the local level will be known only to the people, those who are living in the local areas. So instead of concentrating power in a central area, the government is forced to give the power to the local area. So the meaning of decentralization is very important there. Okay. They can settle the problem in the local level, and the local people can also participate in the decision making systems too. So the power is dividing and given to the local people, as well as the participation in the political formation also possible, very clearly possible by giving this decentralization, or power is vested in the hands of the common people. They too can be participate in forming the government. Now, so a major steps taken towards the decentralization, which happened in the year of 1992, the constitution was amended, changed to make a three-tier democratic system in India, and it made a powerful and effective method for the three-tier system. That means central government, state government, as well as the local government. Now we are going to see key features of this three-tier system. First one, it is constitutionally mandatory to hold the election, regular election in all the local government. Earlier, before 1992, it was not compulsory to conduct elections even in the local government. But when the amendment happened in 1992, it made compulsory that conducting election in the local government is must. So every 5 years, local elections are happening. And the second point, some seats are reserved for SC, ST and OBC. To uplift these backward people, government particularly mentioned in the constitution that some seats should be reserved for these SC, ST and OBC, backward people, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other backward community people. The third point is the 1/3% of seats, or 1/3% of the seats on all the positions, that means around 33% of seats should be reserved for the women. So in the local self-government, 1/3% seats should be reserved for the women. The fourth point, a state election commission is set up. Particularly a state election commission is set up to conduct a regular election in the panchayat as well as municipalities. And the fifth one is that the state government are requested to share their power as well as the income or revenue to the local government. Okay, earlier the entire income was controlled by the state government. After 1992, when the Panchayati Raj system or decentralization system introduced in our country, so the state government forced to share their power as well as the income with the local governments too. Now we are going to see how the Panchayati Raj system is working. So basic level in the one village is divided into so many wards. So many wards together, or in each ward there will be a representative. This representative will be selected from the members of that particular ward, those who have voting right. These ward members will select their leader, so they called as a Grama Panchayat, Panchayat President or Sarpanch. Okay, so many grama panchayat together form a panchayat samiti or block level, or it's called as mandal. Panchayat samiti or block or mandal. So many panchayat samiti or block or mandal together, it is called as Zilla Parishad, or it is called as district level ruling system. It is called as Zilla Parishad. As Grama Panchayat, similarly in the cities, municipalities will be there. Municipal authority will be controlling the urban areas. Urban in the sense cities. Or the big cities are called as municipal corporations. Okay, so normal cities are called as municipalities, and big cities are called as municipal corporations. Both the municipalities and municipal corporations are controlled and elected, controlled by an elected body. They are consisting of people representation. Means how the village panchayat is ruled by the members, elected members of village. Same way, municipalities are ruled by or controlled by the municipal ward members, or the people, those who are living in the municipal ward. They select their representative. Those representative will select their leaders to rule the municipality and municipal corporations. Municipal chairperson is the political head of the municipality. Municipal chairperson is the political head of municipality, whereas in municipal corporation, mayor is the head of the areas. So in municipality, municipal chairperson will head or the leader, whereas mayor will be the leader for municipal corporation. Now, there are around 36 lakhs people or elected representatives are working in the panchayat and municipalities in our country. Means 3-tier system. Third, at the lowest level, around 36 lakhs Indian elected representatives are working in our country for the welfare of the local self-government. Okay, it has also increased the women representation and their voice in the local self-government government and in our democratic system. Even though we say that many good aspects are there in decentralization, there are some negative aspects too, like Grama Sabhas are not happening or held regularly, because in each village Grama Sabha should be conducted. Grama Sabha in the sense it's a meeting where all the members of the village, particular village or ward, should be participated and taking decision for their welfare and the development. Okay, so one main defect of this decentralization is that the Grama Sabhas are not held properly. The second one, most states or state government are not transferring their important power to the local government. So actually, according to 1992 rule, Constitution Amendment, state government should pass the important power or transfer their power to the local self-government, but it is not 100% properly happening in our country. The third and last point against this decentralization of power is that they are not providing the sufficient sources of income or resources. Income, it can be a form of a cash or any means. Okay, the resources are not properly reached to the local self-government. These are the 3 main difficulties of decentralization at present in our country. By this, we completed the lesson Federalism.